Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello there, it's Gemma, and this is episode 295 of the new series of the Cognitive Podcast, and this one is called Happy Us, because we celebrated our 34th wedding anniversary last weekend, coincidentally on a day when the trains weren't running. So our typical celebration of go someplace, stare at the ocean, buy things, eat a lot of food, go to museums, however we do that, couldn't do it. So we had a really wonderful, different day, and I'm excited to tell you about it. So your comments are very welcome, and this leads me into the warm thanks, because you can comment either on the blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com or on our group on Ravelry. I would say at this point, far and away, most people are commenting over on Ravelry, so that's really where I would recommend it. And this leads me back to warm thanks, because I want to thank both Chris and Eliza Ski, who are dedicated to getting me to doing P.G. Wodehouse and also Fry and Laurie. And Eliza, I am a long-term fan of a bit of Fry and Laurie. It was hilarious, and it is in my head, in this genre of British comedy that built on the success of Monty Python way back in the 70s, where they began to rely on just quick wit, quick movement, and absurdity in the humor, as well as topical references. I will always be their fan. Chris, yes, for heaven's sake, yes, I can hear you through both time and distance. I forgot to tell you all, I'm a time lady. And the TARDIS is, what is the TARDIS? It's probably my walk-in closet. And right now, however, I am broadcasting from the rocking chair of love, which certainly makes me sound incredibly older than I am. But yes, Chris, I am definitely going to read Wodehouse. Right now, I don't know if you all have noticed, I'm working my way through the Brother Cadfaels again because I just wanted to go through them again, and they're very rich. Originally, when she wrote this series, I thought the series didn't take off till the 10th book, which is, I believe, The Pilgrim of Hate, where you can see her loosen up her style a lot, where she starts to really expand her descriptive paragraphs, her discussions of the weather, and all that. Now I'm finding I was probably a little harsh. I think you can see development in the series. And I think you can see her getting more and more broad and expansive and descriptive in her writing style. This is Ellis Peters, alias the wonderful late Edith Pargeter. And she has a beautiful, beautiful writing style. And I really think that was the greatest gift. Now I'm looking at them and thinking, in the early books, I sound like a psychologist, but she was having some kind of death crisis because she keeps really focusing on dying people. I have to tell you, that goes over a lot less happy with me at 65 than it did with me in my 30s, where, oh, that's a remote thing. Well, it's not as remote as it used to be. Nonetheless, I am a fan of the Brother Cadfaels, and I'm working my way through those. But I do believe Wodehouse is probably next on the list for reading and or listening. Meanwhile, please keep in mind Cognitive Fiber Retreat 12. The information, there's a link in the show notes at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com. And the information is there. It hasn't changed a whole lot. We're at the same hotel as far as I can tell. I'm a little out of touch with our own Loretta 1031. I'm not sure what's going on there. Partly because I think I've got some kind of scammer using her account trying to contact me. It's a very weird situation. However, as far as I know, we're all there, and you can go see the information thread. And don't forget, there will be I'm calling it the Bloodroot Tea fashion show, but I'm going to say it's the summer knitted tee that I'm hoping people will wear and show off and exchange patterns. Meanwhile, what's on my hooks and needles? Haven't finished anything, just working my way down through the Bloodroot Tea, but we have much happiness there because I finally finished all the sleeve increases, separated for the sleeves, and then did the sleeves. The big issue for me now is the color because I'm going to run shy. I had 3 skeins, as it turns out, of the wonderful colorway dyed by a dyer who is no longer dyeing, Be Myself. So I've been trying to match it, and I've gotten a scarlet from I can't even think who that's from, Cascade, I think. And I've also gotten Cerezza, Malabrigo Cerezza in sock yarn, because the sock yarn seems to be the match as well. And the problem is, when you look at it, you can see it looks like scarlet, cherry, and some sort of blackish red. So whatever I do, this is now going to be a color block sweater. At the very bottom of it will be a different color. The question is trying to zero in and get close enough to that color. On the Oceanside top, I should say, with the Bloodroot, what I'm doing now, I'm just knitting down the body. Oh, what a relief it is. With the Oceanside, remember that one? That's in crochet, another summer top. I'm still slogging along on color number 2. We're getting there. The end is in sight so that I can get to the 3rd color bar. I'm not sure if this is going to be 3 different colorways or 4. I have a 4th rounded up just in case, but I have 3 of them wound and kind of ready to go. Not much else in the crafty world, so let's get on to a strategy. The weird thing that keeps coming up this summer for me is people panicking. And I find this disturbing. And one of the really disturbing manifestations of it is on social media. I keep seeing a lot of hate posted towards therapists. This really fascinates me. But here's the general sense of that. People post things and say, oh, these evil therapists are making money off our pain because we have a right to be depressed and frightened because the job market is terrible. We can't afford to buy houses or rent apartments, etc. Now, that to me is a panic post because if the job market is bad, and it is. Like, these are true statements about the job market and the economy. Don't get me wrong. All right. So if the job market is really bad, and it is, and the housing market and the rental market is really bad, which they are, why are you attacking therapists? Please, first off, please go put your energy into changing those things. And I don't just mean making angry social media posts. I mean voting, marching in the street, protesting, joining your city council, going to city council meetings, voting, reviewing all the issues. Okay? I mean, and this in a way, we're talking about fast skills here. Let's stay on topic. Now, getting back to the evil therapist thing, I think when you get a post like this, you've got panic. You've got somebody just panicking, oh my God, how am I going to live? How am I going to get a job? Let me explain something to you. In therapy, we talk about this all the time. We talk about how therapy can't change the job market. We can't help you get a job. So the point is, what are we doing? Well, if you're fortunate enough to have health insurance, because this is the U.S. and many are not, no matter what jobs they work, if you're fortunate enough to have health insurance and you're seeing me and you're looking for a job, the real question becomes, do you want to look for a job when you're freaked out of your mind? Or do you want to look for a job when you're able to calm yourself? That's where my job lies. I can teach you to do the things that calm yourself. So let's keep this clear that when we are in a panic, what is panic? Panic is the height of anxiety, and anxiety is I'm doing useless actions to try to solve a problem because I can't think of a useful action. Okay? And so I do useless things. So as opposed to depression where I just lie down and play dead. Okay, so depressed people, when they can't get a job, they just lie in bed and don't try because becomes a biochemical state. They're not doing that on purpose. They're not trying to be helpless. Okay, but anxiety is the people who can keep going, who can push themselves out of that depressive place. No judgment on the people who can't, please. Okay, but the problem is they don't know what to do, and so they're running in tight circles. And one of the reasons they're running in tight circles is they're panicking. They're not able to access executive function. They may also be running in tight circles because there really isn't a solution. All right, and that takes you into another zone, which is we do have to live with not knowing. We do go through really bad patches in our lives where we can't have a straight up answer. I want a job and I can't find one, and I am doing my best. So we're not going to judge depressed people. We're not going to judge panicking people, and we're not going to judge anxious people. That it can be for very good reasons. We're not talking about whether or not it's for a good reason. We're talking about now I'm in panic. What do I do? All right, a burst of panic is usually going to last about 20 minutes. Why? Because panic is like a biochemical bomb is dropping in your body. It's your corticosteroids are blasting into your body, and you're having trouble turning off the glands, the 4 glands that produce the corticosteroids. So you get this in kind of bursts, as far as I can say. Now, am I being strictly biochemical here? No. I'm talking about on the outside as a therapist. This is what we see. When someone goes into panic in our office, in our best efforts, it's going to take about 20 minutes to calm them down. That's what I'm basing this on. I'm also basing it on my own panic cycle. When I get upset, I take about 20 minutes to calm down. So all the experience here, and yes, I can't remember whose research it is. There actually is research, 20 minutes to calm down. Now, you get people who say, I need 2 hours. First of all, hats off to them. They timed it. You should time your panic if you can. You should time your anxiety if you can. Because when you do that, you're actually pushing your brain into a mode of, oh, I panic for 2 hours. Okay, now that I know that, I'm going to help her out by only panicking for an hour and 45 minutes. In other words, your brain will start cooperating to reduce your panic. Okay, so what does all this come down to? When you panic, you're going to do things that are not useful, like post social media hate posts against people who actually are probably on your side. Are we taking money, by the way, for your pain? Yes, we are. Because we have to get paid for what we do. And you know why? Because we have to make a living. And what we do takes specialized skills. And it often kills us. We have a high suicide rate from trying to help you. Please keep your focus and your anger pointed at the actual causes. Please don't just start slashing out sideways. But again, to me, that's just proof of panic. That's not clear thinking. That's not cause and effect, guys. Okay, so yes, we are, I'm being sarcastic now. Yes, we are making money off your pain. So are doctors, so are nurses. So now what? You're going to just say like, okay, I won't get any care. No, that you do have to pay people for their time and effort and risk. All right, so let's keep our heads straight there. But back at your panic. So what are you doing for your panic? I learned a new one this week from a chiropractor. And it's really shockingly effective. I don't have a good explanation for it. He does. Good for him. But it works like this, and I'm very grateful. When you're having a thought, a painful thought that you need to interrupt, remember army breathing? This is going to sound a lot like army breathing. You do a big fast inhale, hold for a second, and then you do a little inhale on top of it, a little quick extra sip. This is hard to do. Yes, you're not imagining that. And then you do a slow exhale. I wish I could think of this guy's name. I have to go find him again on Instagram because it really helps me. This really works. I wasn't expecting it to. I was like, oh, it's another mutilation of army breathing. No, I have to admit, when I'm having a painful thought and I go, I hope you could hear that. It actually stops the thought. So thank you, doctor. And I'm really sorry. I can't remember your name. I'll try to figure it out to give you credit. But right now, I'm just going to go for, look, if you're having a panic or a agonizing thought and you're going into panic, quick inhale, big inhale, pause, sip, a little more inhale, and then slow exhale. And should you be panicking, the problem there is it's kind of multidimensional. First, believe it or not, yes, we have panic mode, but actually it's something we learn, that people who panic routinely most likely have, in most cases, a parent who does that. And the parent is modeling it. And like any normal kid, you're going to do what your parents do. Even the best parents have their struggles and their problems. And remember, we're the first generation that's getting reasonable access to cognitive behavioral therapy. So, do with that what you will. And this is Cog B. Don't sit there in your panic trying to solve an unsolvable problem. Stop the panic. That's your first problem. Your second problem is getting a job or getting a home. Right now, panic is not going to help you solve that problem. So your first priority is to stop the panic. So I want you to have that, and I want you to have it for free. I am seriously thinking, I have to tell you, of doing a lot of quick, short intervention videos on just a huge range of topics and putting them on social media. No, I won't use TikTok for a number of reasons, but if I do this, it'll probably start with Instagram and maybe Reddit. I have to think about this, Facebook, because I actually am thinking of starting a Patreon account, or just using my Ko-fi account and trying to use it as a side gig. I am not comfortable with putting advertising in things because I don't want to interrupt the podcast, but I would like to make extra money on the side. I'm also not comfortable with monetizing this podcast. I really think there just have to be the occasional audio podcast out there that you can just listen to and enjoy, assuming that's what y'all are doing here. All right. Meanwhile, back at Shoot, well, the heat wave goes on, so instead of running, I have been bike desking. That is, I get on my bike desk. I try to do at least one patient a day on the bike, but usually it's two, which means I'm going somewhere between 3.5 and 7 miles a day on the bike. But Gemma, what about your running? You love running. I do love running. You know what the bike desking does to me? I do that usually one patient in the morning, one patient in the afternoon. The minute I hang up on my patients at about 5 at night, with Thursdays being a little bit later, I can't even keep my eyes open. I'm getting something out of the bike desk, pedaling extremely slowly, that I'm not getting out of running 3 miles a day. And that is a really good night's sleep. And I mean good night's sleep. I pass out for 10 hours. So I don't know, but I'm enjoying it right now. This doesn't change the fact that in another 2.5 weeks, I've got the Tehachapi Mountain Gallop 5K. And I am looking forward to that. In the fluffy books, I am not really reading a lot this week. I've mostly been knitting and trying to listen to the ends of various books I started. I am still in The Violin Maker's Secret. I can take about a chapter of it, and then I want to stop. I can't figure out why. It's very well written and very delightful. I do recommend it. I'm listening to the end of St. Peter's Fair right now, and I finished The Virgin in the Ice. These are both Brother Cadfael's by Ellis Peters. And so I'm reading and listening to The Violin Maker's Secret. Something I really like, I bumped into Google Chrome Remote Desktop. I have to tell you, this is a nice trick. This does seem to weird out all my computers I use it on. So, do with that what you will. But Google Chrome Remote Desktop. What I wanted to do was see my PC desktop and manipulate it from one of my iPads. There's a few ways to do this, including a thing called AnyDesk. AnyDesk is an application that's very popular. I could not get AnyDesk to work because I use a VPN, and my VPN, Virtual Private Network, shifts around my IP address intentionally to stop me from getting hacked. So I started using Chrome Remote Desktop. And if you want to use this, it's nice. You can control one computer from another. It goes in one direction. So I wanted to control the PC from an iPad. So I went to my iPad and I just Googled Chrome Remote Desktop, because who better than Google to tell me about it? It took me to a page, and the page walked me through the process. You go to the base computer, the one you want to monitor, and you go to a page there. Then the link is in the Google information. And you go there, and it says, okay, here you are. Do you want to download Google Chrome Remote Desktop for this computer? So I downloaded it and put it on the PC as an application. Then I went back to that same information page, and it said, okay, from now on, this page is your base. So put this page as a link on your desktop, on your iPad, and click on it, and make sure the other computer is running. And that's how I did it. Interestingly enough, and I'm going to see if this is going to happen again, when I did it, I put it on my iPhone as well as one of my iPad minis. Both overheated. And I'll come back to that. I don't know if that's from Chrome Remote Desktop, but I'll come back to how I handled the overheat as well, because it's an interesting scenario. Meanwhile, I still am carrying the links for antifreeze, so you can find out where ICE is in your neighborhood and avoid it. And the AIResistlist.org, a site that talks about how to push back against AI. I have the recipe still for Ketorade because it's hot. I also downloaded a recipe how to make egg custard in your Instant Pot. I have not tried this. If you're going to do this, download the photo. It's a screenshot of the recipe. You really can't read it there. I wanted to sit and transcribe it, but I haven't had time this week. But what I would tell you is just copy that recipe. Yes, this is on the low carb group on Reddit. And the interesting thing, somebody posted a recipe for egg custard with hard-boiled eggs. Not a thing that makes sense to me, frankly. And everybody wrote in and said, why are you doing it this way? And this is the best answer. If it doesn't work, but I think it should, you should be able to just literally download that photo and then enlarge it, because you can't really see it well where it is. Okay, kids, we're on to the blather in a record-setting 22 minutes and 30 seconds, but there you go. So Saturday was our 34th anniversary. Someone said to me, that's a lifetime. No, it's not. It's half a lifetime. Everybody calm down. But it's wonderful. You know, I'm in love with the same guy really 38 years after I first started dating him, and 40 years after I met him. It is amazing. It is possible. Everybody says, what's the secret to it? Not leaving. That's really it. Don't leave. Now, you know, the other secret, we had very firm deal breakers. No violence, no drug use, no drinking, no screaming at each other, no cheating. Any of those would have been a deal breaker. I would have simply walked away, and he would have too, I believe. And it led us to all the near misses. What do you do if you kiss somebody when you're a little drunk? I didn't exactly do that. I was at a Ren fair, and the guy made me kiss him to get a discount. I kissed him. I then called my husband and told him. What do you do about same-sex close friends? Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I've changed that over my marriage. In the beginning, I avoided them. I tried letting one or two back in and realized that was wrong. And so, yeah, I don't have a lot of same-sex close friends. Same-sex as my husband, I'm saying. Because I don't feel like my husband should ever feel like he's in competition for me. So, you know, you have to keep making these hard decisions over and over and again. And there are times where probably he deserved to be left and I deserved to be left. We didn't do it. We did take a break. At one point, I moved down here to California. He stayed in Washington. He had to. He was on a contract job that was paying very well. I stopped being an English professor. I had to get my therapy degrees. But it also gave us this little break and a reconsideration period where we did stay married and we dated each other again, long distance, and decided, and got back together. And no, nobody cheated as far as I know or believe. The deal was not we could cheat. The deal was we still don't cheat, we're still married. So if you want to know what the secret to a long marriage is, I'd say you have to make deals in the beginning that these are the absolute deal breakers. You do have to stick to them. I do believe if you tell your partner no cheating and your partner cheats, you have to leave. There isn't going to really be a good comeback from that in my experience. And that's a lot of experience, speaking as a wife, but also as a clinician. So you have to make your own decisions because some people do patch it up. I'm not one of the ones who could. I know that about myself. But the idea is you're going to have periods where you dislike each other or hate each other, believe you hate each other. Having kids is incredibly hard on the marriage. You have to really change a lot, grow up and develop and devote yourself to the kids over everything else. And all of this is a big challenge. And we made it. And happy 34th to us. I woke up this morning and tried to imagine waking up without my husband. And it was like sticking an ice dagger in my heart. So I think we can assume I'm still happy. Ice daggers and all. Okay, so what did we do for this momentous anniversary? I bought us tickets for a 70 millimeter IMAX version of the Odyssey movie. It was a great idea. Oh no, that was my Roomba turning on. I'm going to have to pause this for a minute. Yes, we are still a 3-Roomba household and very happy about it. I have the one newest Roomba is doing our downstairs, the part of our house that's one step lower than the rest. And that's great because that one will keep starting, recharging until it finishes the whole area it's mapped. This is a nice feature. That's Queenie barking in the background because she's figured out I'm here by the window and she wants my attention. Meanwhile, the 2 older Roombas are doing the upstairs part because that's where the carpeting and the really heavy lifting is. So I let them both go loose at different times during the day. So that was Romeo you heard. He just started up in this room. Yeah, I went into the app to pause him even though he was actually bumping my feet because I want to restart him even if I walk out of the room as long as I have my phone with me. Boy, oh boy, this is called My Phone is My Servant. I am not my phone's servant. I use my phone for useful things like that. At any rate, I can't recommend the Odyssey movie enough. It's brilliant. It is very, very interesting. It goes after a huge amount of contemporary issues. It talks about colonialism, feminism, slavery, oppression, racism. It's really fantastic. It talks about cultural blindness. And then at the end, it talks about why Odysseus suffers. And it's so good. And I don't want to blow this, but at the end, he has to go back and revisit who and what he is. Because in Greek tradition, Odysseus is the clever man. In the translation of the Odyssey, I think it's by someone named Emily Woods. I'm not sure. I know her first name's Emily. I'm not sure I'm getting her last name right. She translates the adjective describing Odysseus as complicated. And that's one translation. The more common, older translation is a man of many parts. And you have to argue, my husband and I were having this discussion last night, are they the same thing? But Odysseus is the clever one. He's the guy with a plan. And that's who he figures as in the Iliad. So the whole thing, the Trojan horse plan, comes from Odysseus. At the same time, the Trojan horse plan relies on a very important cultural behavior in the Greeks of that time. And the Trojan horse is a violation of that. And you just have to see the movie because it plays out and Odysseus has to work out what his part in all the disasters has been. It's a very, very smart adaptation. It is not the poem. It is a movie about the poem. Please keep in mind that poetry and then translated poetry, which we read as a book, and a movie, these are all different things. They are different genre. They have different rules. To make it worse, they're all created at vastly different times on the human timeline. I mean, I don't know how old the Odyssey is, 3,000 years old? Something like that. We start translating it. In English, I think the translations probably show up in about somewhere 15th to 17th century. I don't even know the oldest English translation. Okay, you have to keep in mind, this is a poem that was written before the English language even existed. Okay, that, in other words, the closest, if we want this authentic in a language close to what it was written in, English isn't it. It's a Germanic language. But also, the oldest English we have would sound something like Hachwile Othram Treawe. And if you have any idea what I just said, there's only one set of people who will. But everybody else, and I'm pretty sure nobody in that subset is in my listener group. And I'm not going to explain why, because I said that I never would. But the point is, you can't translate this in a way that creates it as Old Greek, because English wasn't even around. So every translation is going to reflect the era in which it was translated. So Christopher Nolan is using a 21st century translation that's very good, just brilliant. Apparently the translator hated the movie. Have a nice day, ma'am. Okay, the movie's brilliant as far as I'm concerned. But again, you can't expect a movie to be an epic poem. They are drastically different genre. And the book of the translation, it's a translation of an epic poem in a language that didn't even exist at the time the poem was written. So good luck, guys. Stop killing yourselves over authenticity. And by the way, after we saw the Odyssey, which we all loved, I mean, my husband looked at my son and said, what would you rate that out of 10? And my son said something like 150. It's amazing. Everything about it is brilliant. They do change some of the major stories, but the changes are thoughtful and intelligent. The performances are terrific. The casting is perfect. And the idiots who are saying you can't cast a black woman as Helen of Troy, you don't understand what's going on. You really should watch the movie and try to think about it, particularly when you find out she's got a twin sister and what happened there. Okay, you really need to think about that, because it is key that they put a black actress in that role. You really need to think about this. All the casting choices are just stunning. The bravest man in the Odyssey, and Odysseus calls him that, is played by a trans male actor. It's so stinking brilliant. It's just so thought out. You don't have to agree with every choice to realize this is really great. I mean, I'm just appreciative. I do agree with his choices in as much as I think I understand them. I think they're brilliant. But the point is, if this is going to be done in a new genre, the movie, that didn't even exist till very recently, relatively speaking, this is it. He has used every resource he can to really work through this, and every moment is critical. The economy of the movie is stunning. Every moment. It's like watching a Jane Austen novel. It's the movie equivalent of reading Jane Austen, where every freaking sentence is there for a purpose. There's no and it was a sunny day. Everything has meaning. You really, really will enjoy this. I was a little overwhelmed by, it was meant to be seen the way I saw it, and I was a little overwhelmed by that. There's a thing called 4DX, I think, where you get puffs of air and your seat shakes. No, I wouldn't do that. That would be a very long movie. Okay, afterwards, we found that the old chain Mimi's, which used to be a sugar-laden pseudo-New Orleans kind of brunch place, really, it was good. I mean, if you can eat sugar, it was great. Well, they've been replaced. They went out of business, and we now have a Yard House. So we went over to Yard House. Super expensive, but I have to tell you, there's a picture of what I got. It is tuna sashimi with edamame and avocado and amazing sauce and a little bit of grated seaweed, and wow, was that good. We then just took ourselves home because we'd had the day and we really didn't want to do anything else. On Sunday, I got back to my upcycling, and you can see one of the things I was reviewing. It says, before you make a purchase, consider this. It's a very, very smart meme about the consumerist practices that are so prevalent in America. Now we have too much stuff, and now we can't afford stuff, and Americans, by and large, starting with the boomer generation, we have a hard time distinguishing between what we want versus what we need. And so we're kind of overloaded with stuff, and as a result, we tend to give money to producers of stuff instead of producers of experiences, like museums. So there is a meme about that. Basically, on Sunday, I was working at cleaning and upgrading the robot vacuums because they really are something. They were a good investment, I have to say. The original two, I'm not even sure how many years ago we bought these. If it was like 20, I don't remember if we had them in the quarantine, if they're that old. But they're an old series, and I'm grateful that Roomba iRobot still supports them. The new series are quite good. They're easier to clean, a lot more programming possible, but the old series are still working just great. And one of the worthwhile things is, I do go on Amazon once a year and buy replacement parts, and we do a replacement festival at Christmas. These things save me an enormous amount of time and energy. Now, currently, because our house was very covered in dog and cat hair and dusty, I've been using them to vacuum just about every day. Every 2 days, I do Cleanorama, where I gather all 3 of them by the knitting chair in my bedroom with a trash bag that is basically, we keep reusing the trash bag, emptying it and reusing it. So it's a cloth bag from one of my many conferences. And again, I don't want to keep buying bags. So I'm using a lot of bags. We carry them out to the trash, empty them, and bring them back, So we're doing that. And I sit in the knitting rocker, and I work on just cleaning the Roombas. It is much easier to clean 3 Roombas than it is to vacuum the whole entire house, and it's much more thorough to get it done this way. And we're really, really pleased with this, I have to admit. So anyway, I am hoping this Sunday I will be taking another bag of old books, and I'm going to look through my craft stuff in my closet from Paper Crafts before I look through more scrap of yarn that I want to take over. But hopefully there will be another Remainders trip this week, because at the Pasadena Convention Center, they're also having a bead and craft show that they do fairly routinely. And I like to go to these. I don't tend to buy anything, but you do never know quite what you will find there. The last time I was there, I found keto chocolate candies. So, yeah, we're hoping, guys. Meanwhile, you can see my community resources, the links that I've used, including the newest link, which is to social services, such as ICE tracking, LGBTQIA plus support, that sort of thing. And you can see my calendar, which is woefully short of holidays. I have to go in there and add my holiday because I will have a 4-day weekend at Memorial Day, because my birthday is the Friday before Memorial Day. So I'm taking that off. And we are already talking about our gallivanting. Thank you, Elaine Knits, DC Elaine Knits. We are already talking about what constructive gallivanting we will do that day. Meanwhile, Minerva gets the last word, but she gave it to Captain in a fit of generosity. Because Captain, by the way, is pictured sitting on our big bed. You can see my bins of shawls and such, and my wrap skirt on the floor there. You can see all my toys. But there's our big old Captain sitting on our bed, because Captain does like to do that. If she's alone in the house, she goes and she lies in the middle of our bed for comfort. Captain is our border Newfie. That is, she's a border collie, 1/4 and 3/4 Newf. This is not a cross that really should happen. I think it's done terrible things to Captain's head, because Newfies are so loving and so conscientious. And Border Collies are so organized and conscientious and brilliant. So Captain, she has her neurotic moments, but she is a brilliant dog in her own way, and she's tempered that Border Collie activity and angst. I gotta work, give me a job. It's tempered by that Newfie mellow. She really suffers. Sometimes she's mellow, sometimes she's not. She is definitely a goofy Newfie. Newfs often have a strain of goofy, and I don't know how to describe it, except it's just goofy. And so Captain will suddenly walk up to you and fall at your feet and wave her feet in the air and tell you that you're the most fantastic human. And she will lie on the floor at the vet's and scooch herself across the floor on her left shoulder and stare up at the vet and wag at her. I mean, she just has these kind of goofy, Newfie moments. Last night, Captain did the wonderful. I'm sitting in my study finishing my charting for the day, which I do. Finish all your notes every day. My husband yells, "Dinner is ready." And Captain came in and rounded me up. It was the funniest thing. She came in and she looked at me, and then she looked out towards the kitchen, and then she looked at me, and then she put her head in my lap, and I scratched her ears, and she yanked her head away and tried to lead me to the kitchen. So Captain yesterday brought me to dinner. And of course, it's a tribute to who Captain is that we get out there. And my husband says, "Why are you laughing?" And I said, "Well, when you said dinner is ready, Captain came in and rounded me up." And everybody believed me. That my husband and son both said, "Oh, that is so funny. That is so Captain." That if you know Captain, believe me, that's completely in the realm of the believable. So Captain would like you to know that it is highly important that families have meals together and spend just quiet, calm times sharing meals and sharing their activities. Captain thinks this is what makes the community stronger, when the community meets and mutually supports each other, not just in big events, but in the little day-to-day quiet events. I say, too, Minerva approves this message. So, what I would tell you is, in your community, you could learn something from our Captain, and Minerva wants you to know that as well. Having said that, everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.